What we're going to be looking at and what I try to recommend people take care of is, one, we get the overhanging branches and canopy away from the structure in the house. That means that we trim branches and trees 10 feet off the roof line and off the deck line. CAL FIRE doesn't require this, insurance doesn't require this, but I like 15 to 20 feet off of chimneys because you've got a heat source right there that can transfer embers into the canopy and the trees like we talked about before, and you don't want that. So we want to make sure that the trees are trimmed back 10 to 15 feet away from the structure, and that includes decks. Then we're going to be looking at the ground. Do you have a lot of ground cover? Do you have a lot of dead buildup of leaves, sticks, lots of stuff that could be embers, could be fuel? We want to get that reduced and cut basically back down to dirt and pulled away from the house. The other thing that you don't want to see is you don't want to see firewood stacks. So stacks of firewood that are light up against the house, if a fire were to come through, that's the first thing it licks. So because it's nice dry wood, that's a really, really nice big bundle of heat that a fire is going to attach to and then burn through your house. So CAL FIRE and insurance both recommend that you keep your fire stash, your firewood stash, 30 feet away from your house. And while that may be a massive inconvenience, if a fire were to come through in the summertime, it could save your home. So you want to make sure that those fuels, those consolidated fuels like this log deck and firewood piles, are at least 30 feet away from the structure in the house. The other thing to look for is propane tanks. Everybody's got them. How often do we clean around the propane tanks? That's a giant, massive firebomb waiting to go off should a hot enough fire go through. And so what you want to do is you want to scrape down to dirt 3 feet around that thing. You want to make sure that there's no shrubs, there's no trees, there's no nothing that's growing around that thing within 3 feet, because you don't want to add fuel sources next to a propane tank. Now, propane tanks and other fuel source tanks do have a fire plug in them that will melt at a certain temperature, so they off gas and they don't explode like a bomb. We don't want to get to that point. If a fire were to go through, we want it to burn through around the propane tank, around the fuels, and continue to go, and that propane tank and those fuels are perfectly safe and fine. And so maintaining a 3-foot dirt pattern around those propane tanks and around fuel sources like log decks, firewood piles, or any other type of biomass that could be considered a fuel is really going to help in your fire hardening process.